This week, we're talking about 8 questions to ask new clients before you start working with them. Sometimes in your career, you will end up working with a client who makes your life very, very difficult. You might find yourself butting heads with them with small details, or you might find yourself working with a client who has unrealistic expectations of your work or how fast you can turn around a project. The questions in this video, however, will hopefully help you identify fast whether or not the client you're talking to is a good fit for your business. Have you ever worked with a virtual assistant before? This is an essential question to ask from the get-go and one of my favorites because it surprisingly weeds out bad clients quickly. If your prospective client answers that they have already worked with many virtual assistants before and that none of them were helpful for their business, that's a potential red flag. Feel free to dig a little deeper if they say that they've already had different virtual assistants before. Ask them what worked for you, what didn't work for you, what do you wish their past VAs did? Depending on their answer, you might get a good sense for whether it truly was that they had bad previous VA matches or if they perhaps are the common denominator. Perhaps they have unrealistic expectations. Perhaps they have impossible turnaround times. Whatever it is, this is your opportunity to dig a little deeper and ask those questions. Number 2, what is your ideal budget? When you know your client's budget upfront, you can actually tailor your scope to meet their needs. Here's the thing. Having a budget absolutely helps tailor your scope and your prioritization of this client, if you will. So hear me out. If a client approaches you with a rather low budget, you have a choice. You can either decide not to work with them at all, but if you need the money, there are a couple more things you can do. If you are faced with a potentially low number of hours or low budget, and you do genuinely want to work with this client or you need to work with this client, you can amend your scope. That is, you can offer general type services. You can pull back on some more specialized services. So if they are expecting you to run their social media, but they only want to pay you $100 a week, that's not going to fly. Social media is a specialized service. So if you're working with a tight budget, you can actually pare back your scope of work. Or if you're working with a tight budget, you can assess how fast you want to turn around work to that particular person. Number 3, ask clients what their usual or expected turnaround time is. You might be surprised, but some clients will have either no deadlines at all and say, you can just give me stuff whenever, or some clients might have very tight deadlines and they might request that you're online during certain times of the day or that you turn around certain work in 24 hours, in 48 hours. But it is important to ask this question because you really need to know what their expectations are, and then you can determine if you can meet those expectations or not. Number 4, and I love this question, ask your prospective client what their goals are with working with a virtual assistant. As they outline their goals, you can follow up with other questions that help really identify some of their pain points or will perhaps inform how you want to get started with this person. For example, if you ask a prospective client what their goal is with a VA and they really don't know, that to me is kind of a red flag because it says to me that they haven't really thought out their game plan. Why is it that they need a virtual assistant? If they don't have any goals, it can be hard for them to actually delegate tasks because they don't really know what end goal they're working towards. So whilst this is a bit of a red flag, you can absolutely ask more pointed questions or you can help design a goal together. Number 5, ask your client how they measure success. I like metrics, and I especially like metrics that will help determine if this partnership is a successful one. They might say something to you like, I think a VA relationship will be successful if you help take all my calendar booking off my schedule, or if you book all my flights for me, or if you can save me 5 hours of work a week, I will think this is a success. So knowing what their parameters are for success is great for you as a VA because it gives you an opportunity to meet their expectations and go beyond their expectations. This question, I think, also helps determine if your prospective client is a good fit for you or not, because if their measurement of success is unrealistic or is something that you don't think you can provide, you might want to back out of that client relationship. Question number 6. What are your priorities when working with me? Knowing what your client's priorities are a great way for you to totally wow them and create the best plan of action for them moving forward. I've asked new clients before, what are your priorities? And they've said, I really don't know. I don't love when clients say, I don't know, because it does take a little bit longer to figure out what kind of things I can be doing for them as a VA. My ideal client has priorities, has goals. My ideal client can say something to me like, oh, my priorities are for you to start managing my email newsletter. Great. Priorities are great. And again, if they don't have any, you can then determine if this is a client that you even want to start working with. If they don't have any priorities, just like goals, you can absolutely help them make some priorities together. Question 7, do you have any particular processes for completing your work? I love this question because it gives me a sense for how, I guess I'll say type A my clients are. Sometimes I ask clients, do you have any specific process that you want me to follow, or do you have any particular way of doing some of these tasks that you want me to do? Some of them say yes, and I have to determine if that meshes with my workflow. I have asked this question before and clients have said to me, yes, I want you to do my expenses like A, B, and C. I want you to do my social media like bing, bang, boom. And sometimes I'm able to determine from the get-go that this person is not going to be a good fit for me because they might be a little too micromanagey. Other times I ask people if they have a particular workflow or process and they tell me, nope, they're totally open to it. However I get things done, that's how I get it done. Now, I tend to find that clients fall into one of those two categories. It's either somebody who has a lot of processes or somebody who doesn't have any at all. Only you can decide which type of personality is right for your business. But asking this question will help you determine that a lot faster. And the final question, number 8, do you have any questions for me? Part of what makes these discovery calls with prospective clients so great is that we get to listen to our clients. We get to have a conversation with them and really listen to their pain points or their struggles. But by asking them, do you have any questions for me? It opens the door. They might ask you things that you've never even thought of, or they might ask you questions that help you in turn determine if this person is going to be a good fit for you or not. The most important thing when you ask question number 8, do you have any questions for me, is that you really listen and then you practice what I like to call active listening. This is where a client might say something to you and then you repeat it. When you repeat phrases or questions that clients use, they tend to think that you really get them. And that is a beautiful way to start off the VA client relationship. If a client says, I've never worked with a virtual assistant before, can you give me some examples of other tasks that you do for other clients? This is a very common question. And if you're practicing active listening, here's how to respond. That's a great question. I can absolutely give you examples of tasks that I do with other clients. It's as simple as that. Active listening is really just repeating what your client has asked. And again, whenever you repeat phrases that your client is asking you, they will start to feel like, oh, I feel heard. This person understands me. And that is exactly what you want on these exploratory calls. So this was a whirlwind video. Feel free to watch the whole thing over again. Write those 8 questions down because they're going to help your client calls be better, more streamlined, more focused, and best of all, they'll help you determine if this client is a good fit for you and your business or not. Thank you guys for watching this week's video. If you have any questions about the content, leave me a comment below. I always do my best to answer your questions as soon as I'm able to. I will see you guys on next week's video.